Hi, I'm Philip Rice from St Giles Church in Desborough with my thought for the day. Now, most of you will know that I volunteer with Christians Against Poverty as a debt coach, and I'm indebted to one of our regional directors at CAP for the inspiration behind today's thought. Are you getting enough rest? By the time you listen to this, I should be on holiday with my wife in Dorset. I expect we'll do a good deal of walking and sightseeing, maybe some swimming, none of which is really resting as such. So perhaps we might spend some time sitting by the pool, who knows. When we're not on holiday, and sometimes even when we are, we have so many things to do, so many responsibilities that we think we couldn't possibly rest. Some people even think, look, I'm really important. People need me. Without me, things would fall apart. And if someone says, great, I'm great, my work's under control, I've got time for the family, I'm getting exercise, I'm pretty chilled. If they say that, then maybe we think they aren't really pushing themselves. They're taking life easy, they're not achieving anything. Society's view on rest seems to be that it's only for when you're sick, or when you collapse in a heap, or for holidays or retirement. Well, I'm retired, yet I'm working for CAP, so that doesn't really work. So what does the Bible have to say about rest? Well, it has quite a lot to say. The first book of the Bible, Genesis, opens with the story of God creating heaven and earth, and chapter 2 opens with these words: Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in all their vast array. By the seventh day God had finished the work he had been doing, so on the seventh day he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he had done. Now, whether you believe that's a literal 7 days or not is immaterial. At the end of creating the world, God rested. But why? Matthew Henry puts it like this: God did not rest as one weary, but as one well pleased with the instances of his own goodness and the manifestations of his own glory. He was enjoying the wonder that he had created. If we move on to the commandments, we find that in Exodus 20, God sets out at number 4 the command to rest on one day of the week. And there are more references in the Psalms. In Psalm 62, for example, my soul finds rest in God alone. My salvation comes from him. The psalmist stops and reflects on who God is, and he finds the deep peace that comes from knowing we are in the hands of the Father. Again in Psalm 91, he who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. And the psalm goes on to lay out the protection and provision from resting in God, rather than toiling on our own to overcome whatever we face. So we've learnt that God himself rested, that God commanded his people to rest, and that his people benefited from resting. And then we turn to the New Testament, where we learn that Jesus didn't come to replace those laws, he came to fulfill the law. He modelled the law. Immediately after being baptized and commissioned, Jesus spent the first 40 days of his ministry in the desert alone with God, though the devil also tried to get in on the act. And he was recorded as regularly socializing and feasting, when surely he should have been out there telling more people about who he was and explaining the kingdom. But when we examine his life closely, we find that Jesus modelled rest in a way the world doesn't really understand. He constantly withdrew to a quiet place to rest and pray. His ministry was from a place of rest. And because he was rested, both physically and spiritually, he was able to carry out his calling. And of course he taught his disciples the importance of rest. In Mark 6 he says, "Come away by yourselves to a desolate place and rest a while." And he promises us rest, a different kind of rest. In Matthew 11 he says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This yoke is the way of living out God's law. Each rabbi or teacher had their own version of how to live and keep the commandments and the hundreds of Jewish laws. Jesus offers a yoke, a way of living out God's law that's easy. Instead of constant guilt and fear about not interpreting the laws correctly, Jesus says, "Watch me, do what I do, and you will find rest." John Comer puts it like this in his book, The Relentless Elimination of Hurry. He says, "Be with Jesus. Become like Jesus. Do what he would do if he were you." That's the yoke. As we walk along, joined to Jesus by the yoke, we get in sync with him. We become like him. In the hurriedness of everyday life, there's so much noise, so many distractions, so many things telling us we need to do something or be something or buy something or eat something or achieve something, that it's really hard to hear the Holy Spirit. That's why the discipline of rest is so important. I'm sure we can all think of 100 reasons why we can't set aside time to rest with God, but if it was good enough for Jesus and good enough for God to rest, then surely it must be good enough for us. Perhaps some people are afraid of rest, of being with God, because we might finally hear what the Holy Spirit has to say about our lifestyle, our direction, our priorities. But let's be positive. When we add up the impact on our lives of 1 hour with God in a proper, restful, calm place, and compare it to, say, one more episode of that box set, or 1 more hour at work, or the gym, or whatever it is for you that takes up your time, the maths is simple. Now, I'm not very good at this, and I need to try harder. Resting in God needs to be planned, or it probably won't happen. And it's not likely to become a regular feature. It's not easy to start a marathon 6-week silent retreat. So start by setting aside just a little time in your day, ideally at the beginning of the day, so that you can set your day before God and go from there. Tell God what's on your mind, and also allow time for God to speak to you. Engage with the Bible. There are lots of apps you can get for your phone that make that easy. Spend some time reflecting on who God is, what he's done, how he's provided, and how he loves you. If we build this sort of rest into our lives as a matter of routine, it will become a delight.